But it's not just RFK Jr. that they're coming after. As you can imagine, they're also coming after people like Cornel West that have decided to run third party. They also consider him to be a threat. They consider anyone to be a threat that is running and trying to challenge Joe Biden, because they believe that Joe Biden should just be reelected. We should just hand it over to Joe Biden because he's already in that seat. That's not democracy, but they don't want us to have a choice. They want to tell us who they selected, and they want us to vote for the person that they've already chosen. That's really how it works. Now, shout out to K-Steady QB for this clip. Here is Fox Business talking about both, a little bit about RFK Jr. And Cornel West eating into voters, as they like to put it. Let's listen to this.
Talk about Democrats, because there is panic in the Democrat Party that there could be a third-party candidate that could threaten Joe Biden's reelection. Take a look at this poll showing the willingness of nearly half of American voters neither want to vote for a Republican nor a Democrat, or they're willing to vote for somebody else. That is a remarkable number, which means Joe Biden is in danger. But also, if there's a third-party candidate that's a conservative, the Republican nominee could be in danger, because it's...
Let's go back to this number. So I think this is the first time in my lifetime where I have seen 47% consider voting for a third party. That's huge. It'll be one thing, it said like 16%, even like 20%, 47%. Because see, now we've already had a Trump presidency and we had a Biden presidency. Biden said he was going to do better than Trump. Trump said he was going to do better than Obama. Now that we've already had both, a lot of people are sitting back and they're looking around and they're like, maybe I just need to vote for someone who's not a part of one of these two parties at all. Right? Now, Sean from the real world, and yes, I do call him that, because to me, he will always be Sean from the real world. He brings up the idea of a conservative third party candidate, the possibility of that. I never really thought about that, but typically the people running third party usually aren't conservative. Even like the libertarians they may lean a little bit to the right, but then they have some views that are different. But I don't know, man. I don't know. But Sean's going to go back in.
But also, if there's a third-party candidate that's a conservative, the Republican nominee could be in danger, because it seems like the American electorate is dissatisfied with all of their choices.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I think the danger is a little bit more for Democrats for one reason. Just because Republicans for 12 years now have been going through this Tea Party movement, and then Donald Trump, who I would argue is a third-party candidate. I mean, the first thing Donald Trump did when he came on the scene was he beat all the Republicans, and then once he did a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, he then went after Hillary Clinton and then took over that as well. The Democrats have managed to keep it together, to keep their corps together and not go through this. So their vote, and we see it with RFK Jr., their voters are dying for somebody different, an outsider, and they keep getting the same corpses like the president, Joe Biden. And it's not working. People don't like him. They don't want him, or they get a Kamala Harris. And so I think that there's a they're trying to sort of keep this thing together as best they can, and that's why they went with Joe Biden in 2020. But I think the seams it's going to come apart at the seams for Democrats, because they have not addressed this problem, which is they don't like the party, they don't like the establishment, and they want something different. And it's why.
And let's pause here for a second. You would have thought that with all the support that Bernie Sanders had, you would have thought that would have been a big wake-up call for the DNC, that people want your party to do something different. People want you to move in a different direction. And we cannot forget about the independent voters, the registered independents, who every time sit around and wonder, well, what am I going to do this time? Right? I would encourage those independents to vote for an independent or a third party candidate and not automatically just choose one of the two parties. You are independent, right? So I think that things are changing. people do want more. Plus, we also have inflation to deal with. Economically, a lot has happened, particularly since the pandemic. So American people are sitting back and they're like, look, things have not improved for me economically. When are these grocery store prices going to go down? They're talking about all these jobs. When am I going to get a raise that isn't pretty much, canceled because my health insurance premium increases also when I get that raise? Like, when am I going to get a significant? So people are seeing these things that are happening economically. And like I said, now we've had both. We've had Trump and we've had Biden. And people are still, particularly for the most part, especially working class people, are not happy.
At the end of the day, if Republicans go with Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump wins.
I think you're right. And by the way, if Joe Biden won't debate, RFK has to threaten a third-party candidacy if he doesn't debate, and Joe Biden will show up on stage.
And we were showing Cornel West in that graphic, and both.
Let's pause here for a second. Sean actually had a good point. Something that he said RFK Jr. should do. I don't think RFK Jr. is going to do this, though, but listen to this.
By the way, if Joe Biden won't debate, RFK has to threaten a third-party candidacy if he doesn't debate, and Joe Biden will show up on stage.
That's actually a smart idea. What Sean just said, that if RFK Jr. says, you know what, Joe Biden, if you won't debate me, then I'm going to run third party. That could actually work. That's called using some type of leverage. But I don't think that RFK Jr. is going to do that.
And we were showing Cornel West in that graphic. And both of those men, third party or not, are incredible speakers. And
yes.
Cornel West, an incredible thinker off the cuff. And 2/3 of voters think Joe Biden is too old for a second term, period, end of story. We've got to jump, Charlie.
And a Cornel West or an RFK Jr. would do more to eat into Trump voters than Biden ever would.
But I think what's important for people to understand, again, for those of us that do vote third party, if Cornel West was not in this race, and if Jasmine Sherman, who's running independent, by the way, I interviewed her as well, was not in this race, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I'm going to stay home. That's what people don't understand. If I do go out and vote, it would be for the ballot measures for Massachusetts. That's it. The ballot measures for my state. And then I would just go home. For example, when I voted in November for the midterms, I didn't vote for any of the Democrats or Republicans. I voted for the positions that had a third party candidate. And then I voted for the ballot measures. And then I went home. That's it. That's it. That's the thing that people have to understand, right? But there's more because David Axelrod, who comes from the Obama camp, right? He's been pretty vocal himself, and he thinks that Cornel West is a serious threat. And he feels that the Democratic Party should be taking this more seriously, and they should be doing more than what they're doing right now. Let's go ahead and dive into this. Again, shout out to Case. He's been killing it. Let's listen to what David Axelrod had to say. And they have a panel here where they're going to talk about if it's right, if it's true that David Axelrod, what he's saying here is correct.
President Biden is prepared to take on a Republican on the ballot next fall, but is he ready for a challenge from the left? Cornel West, a semi-celebrity among progressives, is running on the Green Party ticket next November.
She said semi-celebrity. Was that interesting to you guys? That she called Dr. West a semi-celebrity? Not a professor, philosopher, author, semi-celebrity.
Remember, that's the same party that Democrats blame for spoiling the 2016 election. And CNN's Isaac Javert and Eva McKend are here with new reporting on growing concerns among some Democrats who see a progressive Green Party bid sneaking up on President Biden. And they're here to discuss now. First of all, this quote from David Axelrod, who's our colleague, who helped get Barack Obama elected. This is going to sneak up on people. And he said, I don't know why alarm bells aren't going off now. They should be at a steady drumbeat from now until the election. I'm sure they were thrilled to see that in the White House.
Let me pause there. So David Axelrod is trying to warn people. Again, that's the former advisor of Barack Obama. He's trying to basically warn the Democratic Party that you guys need to wake up now if you don't understand what's happening here. It's really interesting to me. It's just like this idea that you have to vote for one of these two parties. It is just such a confined way of thinking. You know, you're not thinking outside the box, and the fact that they want you to remain in this box, and it's like they don't want you to do anything different. It's just so old school. It's just, you know, well, you better pick this or you better pick that one. It's just like, really? We've come so far in this country in reference to technology, but when it comes to voting, they want you to do the same old, same old. They don't want any changes. It's crazy stuff, man.
As they often are when David Axelrod makes a comment like that. But look, the mixed metaphor that he used there, though, is getting at where a lot of Democrats are thinking about this. And within the Biden campaign itself, there's not concern so far about this, but the Green Party has a ballot line in a number of states already. I think it's 16 states already. In 2016, they were in 44 states. So when you think about the attention that's been going to this no labels possibility and how that could spoil the election, they are still getting on the ballot, whereas the Green Party is much easier to get there and would be there with a candidate who is well known among progressives, has celebrity and connection to a lot of black voters. And that is what is generating this concern.
Such an important.
Want to bring this up as well. This is why we continue to say it needs to be someone who's well known. If you have someone that is well known, that a lot of people love, like younger people like Cornel West, older people like Cornel West, like he's been around for a long time. He's been involved in activism. Are there things that he can work on? You know, absolutely. There's no such thing as a perfect candidate. But the thing is, this is a different type of candidate. And the Green Party hasn't had that. You know, Jill Stein was freaking awesome, but a lot of people didn't know who Jill Stein was until she ran. And then after she ran, most people already know who Cornel West is. See, that's the difference. Same thing. If Jesse Ventura would have decided to run Green Party in 2020, he would have also made a big splash because everybody knows Jesse Ventura, right? So this is what they're really afraid of. They do not want this to happen.
Point. And you have a quote in your story from the Michigan Democratic Party chair saying, I don't think Cornel West or the Green Party is something we need to worry about, but it's absolutely something we need to keep an eye on. But I'm sure that that party chair knows the history of that state and also Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Back in 2016, you just have to look at what happened. The Green.
Pause. This is something I want to go ahead and debunk because they love to continue to say this. They're going to point out the number of votes that Jill Stein got in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And remember, Hillary Clinton did lose those states. And what, Trump's margin was. Before they get into their spiel, I just want to interrupt by saying this. How many electoral college votes did Jill Stein win? I'll wait. How many? Which states went to Jill Stein? Which states went to Gary Johnson? You see why this doesn't make any sense? When they make these claims and they say, oh no, this person's going to be a spoiler. It's Jill Stein's fault. She's the reason why Hillary Clinton lost those states. No. Those voters would have never voted for Hillary Clinton. These 49,000 people that voted for Jill Stein in Pennsylvania didn't want to vote for Hillary. Why can't they understand that? These 51,000 that voted for Jill Stein in Michigan did not want to vote for Hillary Clinton. Some of these could have been the Bernie. These were states that Bernie Sanders was beloved in. A lot of people liked Bernie in Wisconsin. They liked him in Michigan. Let's all remember, right? So again, what did we tell you? At one point, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton were neck and neck. But at one point, Bernie Sanders was actually above Hillary Clinton. The DNC picked the candidate that was actually the loser candidate to run against Donald Trump. But when it comes to the Electoral College, no third party candidate has won a state. So the argument that they continue to say is that she took these votes away from Hillary. Really? Hillary owns votes? Does Hillary own you? Think about what they're saying to you. I don't know about you, but I don't belong to anybody. That's terrible. This rhetoric is terrible.
Party. Look at Jill Stein was on the Green Party ballot then. Look at the votes she got and look at Donald Trump's margin.
Yeah, Democrats can't afford to cede any of their coalition. So I think that some are recognizing that they would be remiss to ignore the threat of Cornel West.
Instead of talking about the threat of Cornel West or the threat of RFK Jr., you notice you don't see them mentioning the other side, which is, why the hell is Joe Biden doing so damn bad? Why did Joe Biden let it get to this point? You never hear them say that. Like, wow, how could Joe Biden allow all those Democrats who supported him in 2020 to walk away? What did he do wrong? What were the failures of his presidency so far? That's who they should be putting the blame on Joe Biden. No, they're putting the blame on people who want to run against him and perform better. It's like you have two basketball teams and it's the NBA championship. And it's like, you know, the team that wins, let's say the Lakers wins, but they don't really. But let's say that the Lakers win. And it's like, instead of the sore loser team congratulating the Lakers, which is what I had to do when we played sports, at the end of the game, you go by and say, good game. You congratulate it. That's being a good sport. Instead of that, the whole damn team that lost saying, you know, putting the blame on other people, other reasons as to why they lost. No, that other team won because they performed better. That's how you have to look at it. Joe Biden right now is at risk of losing re-election because he has not performed well. It's that simple. Let's go on.
That struck me about our conversation with him is the attacks are so pointed. And I asked him, did you vote for President Biden in 2020? Why are you so disappointed by him? And then when you kick the tires a bit, even though he was part of this anti-fascist coalition of Bernie Sanders supporters that spoke well of Biden, he got in the voting booth and didn't actually vote for Joe Biden. And the way that he described that evolution on that issue, I think was in an authentic way that other progressives will be able to connect with that message. So I think that should be of concern to Democrats.
Not performing.
Yeah, like the argument that Jill Stein makes for what happened in 2016 and West echoes, and should be said, Stein is working as on West's campaign now, right. Is that those voters wouldn't have turned out at all. They weren't Hillary Clinton voters who left. Yeah. That is not something that is going to put people in a very comfortable place going into what many of us expect to be a tight election.
Such important report.
And this will continue to happen. That will continue to happen. It's interesting, though, because they will interview, you know, these pundits about why voters voted the way that they did. But again, you never see them out in the streets interviewing the voters, asking them why they voted the way that they did. And if they do have these little panels or these focus groups that they tend to do on CNN, these are people that have been pre-screened and they already know that they're going to say something that is favorable for the network. FYI, those people just aren't randomly selected. So that's important for people to understand. So the thing that I continue to say is that if you want to know why people voted the way that they did, you need to talk to the people who actually voted. I think that's really important. Now, Neoliberal Tears had a tweet here in reference to Dr. West and Axelrod. I thought this was important. Neoliberal Tears said, I love that a strategist literally gave a quote saying Biden should get Dr. West and his supporters in an effing room and ask what they want and include it in the platform. A useless gesture that costs them nothing, but still shows they are scared. And here's the screenshots here. Democratic jitters grow over Cornel West's third-party bid. And here, one Democratic campaign strategist said Biden should include West in conversations about the direction of the party as a way to keep him and fellow progressives on board. Get them in the effing room and ask what they want and include it in the platform. They don't actually intend to do it. But let's go on. The strategist said, adding progressives love West run. I think they'll be happy if he moves Biden's rhetoric left. This is the same thing that they thought would happen with Bernie Sanders, right? So some of the people that supported Bernie in 2020 were like, okay, you know, maybe it is possible that Bernie is going to be able to move Biden left. I didn't think that was possible. And I was right. Because if Bernie would have been able to move Biden left, then the DNC wouldn't have tried so hard to prevent Bernie Sanders from winning. If they really want those policies to pass. Now, it's not just a CNN. We also have Simone Sanders here, also concerned about a third party run. Now, you know, she had to get in on this. You know, they had to bring her in. So here we are talking about Senator Murkowski saying the choice between Trump and Biden is a choice between the lesser of two evils. And so I told you guys before, this is what they will continue to do. They will continue to encourage the American people that by supporting Joe Biden, you're actually supporting the lesser of two evils. What you should be asking them is, why the hell y'all got me voting for evil? Why are the choices evil and evil? Let's get into this. Shout out to Case Study QB for this clip.
There's an active Republican presidential primary, but there's lots of talk about third party. And Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska said that she would vote for Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia if he ran for president as an independent. She called the choice between President Biden and Donald Trump the, quote, lesser of two evils. Congressman, I think that we've all been a part of these elections and seen presidentials, but in this case, the language here matters. And this is not a scenario where Donald Trump and Joe Biden are on the same footing when we're talking about the kind of people that they are. I think this is language that the lesser of two evils is language that has regularly shown up in presidential elections. And frankly, maybe people are using the.
They're not on the same footing as the type of people that they are. Let's check this out. Joe Biden crime bills, I should add. Okay, Joe Biden accused of sexual assault. Donald Trump accused of sexual assault. I mean, I don't know. You know, Joe Biden right now with his in trouble with his business dealings in Ukraine. Joe Biden trying to cover up for Hunter Biden's laptop. You see, people like Simone Sanders, they're pawns. They're in this spot for a reason. Let's remember where Simone Sanders came from, okay? Simone Sanders was a part of the Bernie Sanders campaign. She left the Bernie Sanders campaign because she realized that he was not going to have the opportunity to win, jumped on the Joe Biden bandwagon, rode that coattail, even dashed across the stage during one of Biden's speeches during his campaign and knocked over a protester that she felt was about to try to attack Joe Biden when there was security there to do that. So she ran across the stage to protect Joe Biden in all hopes that when Joe Biden won, he would make her his press secretary. That did not happen. He made Jen Psaki his press secretary. And Simone Sanders gave a whole interview about how disappointed and hurt she felt. So they gave her this gig. Congratulations. You still get to push State Department talking points and you're on MSNBC. That's how they shut her up. That's how they hushed up her complaints. All you got to do is go on there and still kiss Joe Biden's ass. Let's continue on.
Shown up in presidential elections. And frankly, maybe people are using the term back in the day when it really didn't apply. But there's not a lesser of two. I mean, there is a lesser of two evils here. And I would argue Donald Trump is not in the running. Okay. Well, just your thoughts about this language and then the third party bids.
Well, yeah, I'm very familiar with what No Labels is doing. They are simply trying to provide ballot access for a potential independent candidacy, a fusion ticket, Republican, Democrat, Democrat, Republican. That's what they're after. They want to have some additional choices and competition. That's what this is about. And I actually think this is healthy for a democracy.
Really?
I think when we see both candidates, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, have large segments of the American population who don't want them to run.
So this gentleman here says he actually thinks it's healthy for democracy to have third-party candidates. Simone Sanders goes, really? They don't even understand what democracy means. Or maybe they do understand what it means, but they want you to think that democracy means one of these two parties. Tell me how this makes sense, people. Every presidential election cycle, the DNC hand select the candidate that they want. And anyone who tries to challenge that or is running from the outside of that status quo, they do everything that they can to smear them and prevent them from getting there, right? They selected Obama. They tried to select Pete. That did not go well because they didn't understand that Black people, apparently, particularly in South Carolina, not really feeling Pete, though. But if they would have spoken to Black people in South Bend, Indiana, where Pete was mayor, they would have known about that. They tried to select Kamala Harris when they realized the Pete thing wasn't going to work out. Then they realized Black people didn't really like her either. They would have realized that if they spoke to Black people in California. She couldn't even get a delegate. So that's really what they want. They want to pick the person and say, okay, that's the person we chose. Now go to the polls and go vote for them. They don't want you to really have a choice. They want you to have the illusion of having a choice. Isn't this the craziest thing that you ever heard? Let's go on.
They're looking for something different. You know, I never voted for Donald Trump, and I voted for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. But personally, I would, like Murkowski, I would like to see another alternative out there that's perhaps a bit more centered politically. And I know a lot of people are out there saying how this is going to affect the election. Nobody really knows how it would affect the election.
Do you think it would affect the election?
Oh, it could, but I don't know how it will. It's far too early to tell. Until there are candidates named and, you know, we get further down and, you know, how the media narrative plays out, I don't think we're really going to know. So I think all this speculation right now about who's going to be harmed or helped is premature.
All right. We'll have to leave it there.
You know how he said that, right? He called it premature with a smile on his face. Put a smile on your face. Now, there are people out there who are arguing still that Democrats are a trillion times better than Republicans. I say it's two wings of the same bird. I don't really think these parties are that much different. They're both corporate. They both support Wall Street, and they both support the military-industrial complex. Even when it comes to the war issue, all you got to do is change Ukraine with China, and you'll see how some people that are politicians in D.C. will easily flip on that. And I think Nick, my comrade from RBN, really addressed that very well in his clip here with Hotspot. So Nick and Nico have been doing these, they're like 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minute clips with Hotspot, really just breaking things down. Go at it, Nick.
The 2024 campaign season is here, so now we gotta deal with more lesser two evils garbage. Democratic Party operative Kyle Kalinske claims the Democratic Party is a trillion times better than the Republican Party. We told you guys at RBN that Marianne Williamson supporters are just Democratic Party sheepdogs. Marianne Williamson's campaign is dead on arrival, so her supporters are skipping steps, and now they just become a full-fledged Biden bro Democrats. My sincere question is, under what metric is Biden or Democrats a lesser two evils than Donald Trump? Joe Biden is funding ICE $6 billion more than Donald Trump. Joe Biden took COVID relief funds and gave it to the police. It's the Democratic Party that is building Cop City. Joe Biden expanded public drilling. He's a fracker, and he approved of the Willow Project. The fact that climate activists are endorsing this guy shows that they truly don't believe in what they are saying. Joe Biden has threw millions of people off of their health care. Joe Biden also said he would veto Medicare for all if it ever came to his desk. Tell me more about how you care about Medicare for all, though, Kyle Kalinske. But Nick, Biden is the lesser of two evils because Donald Trump is a maniac who may plunge us into World War III. That's actually Joe Biden. The 2020
I just got to say, well said, Nick. The things that you just heard Nick say there, you're not going to hear them mention on MSNBC or on CNN. All of those things are true. You know, it's gotten to the point now where independent left independent media commentators are now trying to make excuses for Joe Biden because, like Nick just said, they realize that the person that they chose, Marianne Williamson, is not going anywhere, which means that won't be profitable for them. Let's keep it real. This is all about money. It won't be profitable for them. So now they got to piggyback and jump on that Biden wave so they can continue to remain relevant and continue to make millions of dollars. That's what this shit is about. Now, James Clyburn also, as you can imagine, totally against this, and not just against Cornel West, but this no labels idea in general as well. Listen to this. You know, this is hilarious. Uncle Ruckus has some things to say.
On that point, Congressman, Republican voters not taking a chance on that person. But a new poll shows that a third-party candidate could draw as much as a third of the vote in 2024. A third-party candidate very well might hurt the chances of the Biden-Harris ticket getting reelected. How much does this possibility worry you?
Well, I'm concerned about that, but I've looked at the history of this, Jonathan. You know me very well, and you know that I'm not going to just take things on face value. I'll look at it. People have to remember that Bill Clinton became president of the United States with only 42%. Ross Perot was a third-party candidate. He got a big number. And it helped Bill Clinton.
Also, Bill Clinton was also selected. Let's keep it real. Also, yes, Ross Perot he got like 18% of the vote. But again, not directing it back to the problem. The problem was people were so turned off by reelecting George Bush Sr. They didn't want to reelect him. What did he do under his presidency that turned people off and pushed people towards a Ross Perot or pushed people towards a Bill Clinton? That's the part that they're not mentioning, and I think that's very important.
I don't think Bill Clinton would have got elected were it not for a third party. So I'm not.
That's a damn lie. Bill Clinton was already hand selected. Bill and Hill, they came as a package deal. Okay. Let me tell you something. I seriously believe, I don't think that Hillary Clinton was just like, oh, hey, this is such a nice young guy that I've met in college who really likes me. Yeah, I think I'll marry this guy and, we'll just see where it goes. Hell no. I think Hillary was calculated from the get-go. I think Hillary Clinton knew exactly what she could get out of Bill Clinton. I think she knew that she could wear the pants in that relationship. And I think she knew all I got to do is keep pushing this guy. I'll push him to run for governor. I'll push him to run for president. He'll get in. And then before you know it, it'll be my turn. Anytime the guy was sitting up there, and we talk about affairs and him having an affair with Monica Lewinsky, that continued from the very get-go of their relationship, boo. And she still decided to get married to him. Could have just been a relationship of convenience of sorts. But I think she's very calculated. I think she knew exactly what she wanted from Bill Clinton.
I'm getting all exercise over whether or not there is a third-party candidate. I don't think there should be. I'm against what this no labels people are doing. I think some of them are just playing games. They're not being transparent to American people. We don't know where their money is coming from.
Oh, now all of a sudden we need to know where the money is coming from. Now all of a sudden Jim Clyburn cares about where the money comes from. Well, where does your money come from, Jim? How much money are you getting from Big Pharma these days? How much money are you getting from Blue Cross Blue Shield? Now all of a sudden it matters. When all these other candidates, like when Bernie Sanders ran and said, we got to talk about the money, you didn't want to hear none of that, Jim. But now all of a sudden we need to worry about where the money's coming from. You see how this works? When it's someone that they don't really want. Oh, no, we can't challenge Joe Biden. We need to talk about where the money's coming from. Where's Joe Biden's money coming from, Jim? Mm-hmm.
And they won't tell us where the money is coming from. The same kind of thing happened in 2016. And now we see where some of that money was coming from and some of that aid was coming from. I just don't think we ought to give credibility to anybody running for president, and they won't be transparent about where their finances are coming from.
But we should give credibility to you. But we should give credibility to Joe Biden. This This is the same representative that when he is approached by climate activists, when he's been approached by reparations activists, he yells at them and tells them, get out my face. Leave me alone. Go away. It's all on video every time. What has Jim Clyburn done since he's been in office other than continue to brag, I support HR 40? Yes, he's part of the Black Caucus, but what has he actually done?
And on that note, we're going to have to leave it there. Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina.
James Clyburn lives in one of the poorest districts in South Carolina, but James is not poor. While everybody else struggling in his district, he's still making a lot of money. And I think JB said it best. In a world full of Jim Clyburns, be an Amali Yeshitela. Yes, JB, I agree. In a world like this, be an Amali Yeshitela. Don't be a Jim Clyburn. Don't be an Uncle Ruckus. I'll go to some of the comments in the chat. Very well said, JB. Spike says 47% with all the info we have on both parties. I'm surprised it's not higher. That's a good point. I think a lot of people are not even tuned in politically right now because the election's not till next year. Thank you for the super chat. Space. I never got why is there all this concern about Israel, but nobody ever talks about Native American apartheid and genocide on American soil because there's no money in that space. Just keeping it real. That's what it's all about. There's no oil in that. Thank you for the super chat, Janice. They understand. They use a fraudulent narrative to inspire fear voting in the less politically engaged or aware. They are terribly manipulative. And thank you for this super chat, Space. I wish the left had 1/10 concern for Natives people as they do for Palestinians. Natives have the highest poverty rate, most likely to be killed by police on American soil, and nobody cares. You bring up a good point. I mean, I've had this discussion on this show with Native Americans. So Notori says Simone doesn't believe any of this ish. She's saying, but it's a check. Thank you for the chat, KD. Just finished watching Systems Update with Glenn Greenwald. He roasted Biden's and his corruption and came with receipts. I think Biden is in trouble. Ooh, I'm going to have to check that out, KD. And thank you, Cool Blue. Bad economy. It's the economy, stupid. With election 1992, flipped the presidency from R to D. Republicans won all 3 consecutive cycles of the 1980s. That is true. That is true. Well said.